We come across a lot of WhatsApp groups and a lot of platforms translating the English language from the native tongue. The native tongue is also, I am a CELTA certified tutor. I'm a language trainer, as you all know. It comes to thinking in English, the fluency, the communication areas, I don't think that you have to depend. No two languages are the same. I've already done a video on this topic. You could be given the feeling by the platforms or by such kind of platforms that I talked about in the beginning of the video. I have a table here. I hope you can hear the sound, and I keep my pencil on it. So I have the image. Okay. How can you develop fluency by translating and learning from your native tongue? We come across a lot of WhatsApp groups and a lot of platforms translating the English language from the native tongue. The native tongue is also used as the medium of instruction to teach a foreign language. Well, I know that you may not be able to understand the language, and that is why people have created such platforms. But remember, it's not going to help you develop fluency in the long run. This is Renee Rose Matthew. Thank you for joining my channel. I am a CELTA certified tutor. I'm a language trainer, as you all know. If you're new to the channel, please feel free to go through the channel description. Today's topic, I came across a lot of platforms delivering the foreign language, introducing English in their own mother tongue. I'm not saying it's wrong completely, because some of the beginners, even advanced learners, may not be able to comprehend the meaning, the grammatical structure, or sometimes any particular area of the foreign language. Let's take English, because we are dealing with English, and I'm a language trainer dealing with English. So that is the reason why many creators teach English in the native tongue. I have seen WhatsApp groups operating in such a way that they write the sentences in the native tongue and then teach the English sentence. They do this for reading, listening, speaking, and of course writing later. Let me tell you something very plainly, very bluntly. It's not going to help you develop fluency. There are a lot of reasons. Now let's take the positive aspect. We have a lot of dictionaries. Okay, you have Hindi English dictionary, you have dictionaries from your native tongue translating or even expressing certain words in the English language so that you understand. Why do we have these dictionaries? To help the learners understand, comprehend the meaning in a better way, because you're familiar with one language and you're comfortable learning it that way. So in order to understand certain areas, it's okay to refer these dictionaries. But when it comes to thinking in English, speaking in the English language, the fluency, the communication areas, I don't think that you have to depend on your native tongue. Let me tell you why this is wrong. First thing is, we encourage learners to think in the foreign language. Suppose you are working on your spoken French. The language trainers encourage you to think in that language because it will help you to convert the images into the language. You're expressing it. It's a form of expression. Now, when it's your native tongue, you're quite used to it. You're comfortable with it because you have imbibed the language just like that. Nobody taught you. So in the long run, it is not going to help you with thinking in English. Now, you may have this question, ma'am, I'm a beginner. I'm an elementary student. I do not understand every word that's spoken in English. It is possible because you're not familiar with the language. But even if you know only 5 words, even if you know only a couple of words, you can try thinking something in English. You may know only 10 words. Try to use those words to form a picture and encourage yourself, motivate yourself to think in that language and not in your native tongue, because gradually you become dependent. And I have seen learners translating the sentences in their mind. No two languages are the same. I've already done a video on this topic, think in English. It's very important. Okay, it's important to think in the language that you're trying to develop. So translation will not help you to think in that language. The next point is translation. Translation itself is a technical process. It's not expressing the language in the second language or the foreign language. So if you're translating a book from Hindi to English, the translator should have a good grip, a fairly good grip on both the languages. That itself is a process. It's a technical process. Now, when people say learn through translation or don't learn through translation, what they're trying to tell you is don't express in the language. You don't have to use your native tongue to express in English or vice versa. There are people who try to develop their mother tongue because we all love our mother tongue. So when you develop your mother tongue also, you don't have to use the other language to learn it. Try to think in that language, the language that you're not familiar with, and you can do that very easily with some practice. The third point is you have to come out of your comfort zone. You have to push yourself a bit from your comfort zone, drive yourself out of the comfort zone to learn something, to learn a skill. Because when you speak about fluency, definitely it's a skill. Communication is a skill. It's not about being the best, but you want to be good at it. You want to use the tools so that you become better with the skill. Now, as a beginner and as an elementary learner, you could be given the feeling by the platforms or by such kind of platforms that I talked about in the beginning of the video that you are familiar. It's okay, you're comfortable. We are going to teach you English in this language. So you feel, oh wow, I'm so comfortable because I'm already familiar with my native tongue. That's the kind of feeling that you get. But gradually you will become dependent on it. Subconsciously you start building confidence with the help of your mother tongue, and that's going to be very dangerous. And towards the end of the course or end of the session, you feel that I'm not developing, I'm not progressing as a speaker. Because speaking is done, it is a kind of action that happens when you make use of all that you have read, when you make use of all that you have listened to. It's like you pick and choose the words, even if it's not the appropriate words that you're using to express in that language, because the very purpose is to just communicate and express so that the listener understands. So even as a beginner, if you begin to think in English, and if you don't become too dependent on your mother tongue, you will see the progress, because you're taking the effort to do things by yourself. So first step is to search for the words. Okay? After having the image in the mind, you search for the words, you make sentences and you communicate. So for example, if I see a table in front of me, okay, I'm going to show you that. I have a table here. I hope you can hear the sound, and I keep my pencil on it. So I have the image. Okay, I have the table, the pen, the image is there, words are there, pen, table, on. So as a beginner, you may say pen on table. That's fine. You have taught in English. Somehow you have managed to do it, and then you have the sentence coming out and you have communicated it. But if you're going to translate, the grammatical structure, the sentence structure of the languages are different. So thinking in English is not applicable only to the trainers, the advanced learners, and you don't have to tell yourself, I'm not able to do it because I'm a beginner. You can try doing it in the beginning itself. Now, all these apps that teach you English through the native tongue is not going to help you come out of the comfort zone. Eventually and gradually, some learners take the effort. They don't depend on the native tongue. They understand, they go back and they have their own methods of reading, listening, and then using the words in their own way. That is self-learning. But if you're not used to the technique of self-learning, you may end up asking for word-to-word meaning, translating in the mind, and then you may search for words in your own native tongue and then find the alternative word or the so-called synonym that you always tell yourself, the other meaning, and then you end up framing sentences. How is it going to help you with speaking? The method is very important. Of course, you need to be comfortable when you use a language, and people are so stuck with the idea that I did not go to an English medium school, I'm not familiar with the language, so I have to use something that I'm comfortable with. But gradually, it's like you have to fly, You would have seen the birds. The mother bird will teach the baby birds to fly. Okay, the baby bird observes. After that, it will give a small tap. It will urge the bird, just push it to the edge of the branch, and sometimes just throw it down so that it starts flapping its wings. It's a beautiful, beautiful kind of way in which the mother bird teaches the bird, the young one, right? I'm sure that you would have seen this. I have seen this. So you may feel what a cruel and arrogant mother that is, but that's the way you learn. You are pushed out from your comfort zone so that you start flying. So initially the baby bird will struggle, but then gradually it takes off. So you may feel a bird is okay, bird can fly very easily. It has got the ability. So once we know that, once you know as a learner that, okay, I know some words, I'm fine, I'm not going to be lost in the dark completely, you can urge yourself to move away from the comfort zone. And most of these platforms don't do it. You can always express the foreign tongue in your own tongue and maybe just understand certain aspects. Because I have also heard my friend saying that when I learned the German language for the first time, I didn't understand a word because it's totally different. So I used English language to understand it, certain areas, but gradually I started making sentences. I started framing short sentences, very simple sentences. Then I started speaking. So it's like you push yourself out of the comfort zone before you read books. Okay. Now English is not that difficult because today we have got access to everything. You have access to different platforms, to different tutors. You have everything happening around. Okay. It's not such a kind of alien language. You know something. Most of you will know something. Some words will be there in your mind, but it's your mindset. When you want to develop your skills in a particular language, it's all your interest. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if it's mandatory because of your professional needs, you have to push yourself from your comfort zone. It is important. So when you write, I have seen platforms writing the sentences in the native tongue. Suppose it is Telugu, you write in Telugu and then you translate and make them understand. Okay, it happens in grammar, it happens in listening, it happens in reading also, where you are literally translating. I appreciate the effort of the tutor. That is, the tutor should be good in both the languages, fairly good, so that he or she is able to impart the knowledge, but it's not going to help the learner with fluency when it comes to the foreign tongue. It may help the learner to understand certain things. You will be equipped with some words, but you cannot call it a spoken English class. Another thing is, you have a lot of videos and reels coming up in the native language where people explain phrases, idioms, sometimes some expressions or even words. It's good to understand for the sake of understanding, but do not expect to learn everything in that way. That is why many people are struggling to speak fluently. When I learned the language, I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. There were a lot of times when I was not able to understand. Even today, I may not be able to understand all the words in the language as a trainer too. But I always push myself from the comfort zone so that I understand the different accent, understand the different usages. Otherwise, how do you grow? And that comes from interest. Before passion, you should have that interest. So interest is not just helping yourself to speak fluently or to at least speak in the language. Fluency comes later. Okay, let's keep it aside for the time being. Your goal is fluency, but speak properly. So when you want to speak properly, you're not first checking your skills in your native tongue. Okay, you're not going to use the tool that is your native tongue to learn a foreign language in the long run. It's not going to help. The next point is regarding the beginners. Some beginners may not know any word in English. You can begin by listening. Okay, maybe you can take the help of your native tongue to just understand the meaning. Suppose you're listening to a story. You can take the help of your native tongue to just understand what the meaning of the story is. But then you have to help yourself to read the sentences, because I have seen that most of the beginners are able to read. They will be able to understand simple English. Maybe they'll not be able to speak. That is possible. Okay, you can learn words like on, in, at. Those are prepositions, but as a beginner, you shouldn't load yourself saying that, oh, these are prepositions, and then you mug it up. You know what is the meaning of a preposition? You should teach yourself that. Okay, for that you can take the help of the mother tongue. Okay, this is preposition, we have preposition in my native language also. You just understand, and then you solve the worksheet. Then you listen to a story, you try to pick out the prepositions. You may not understand the other words, it's okay. You may have the subtitles also in the beginning, but later you switch it off. First you read the subtitles or read the story, read it aloud. It takes some extra time, but it's going to help you. It's going to give you the right method. And then you become familiar with the prepositions. In is there, oh, on is there, at. You try to get the right pronunciation of the words, and then you keep listening, and then it starts, it begins. The evolution will be felt. It goes on like that. So you're not actually mugging up the grammar pages, but at the same time you are getting familiar with the usage, the context, you're listening, you're reading. It's like you have used all the 4 facets of learning a language so that you learn the language effectively. So I hope this solves at least a part of your problem, and that you will not depend on the false promises made by some of the platforms. Okay, rely on genuine platforms. Thank you so much. Bye bye.